Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're here to talk about how to fast track your Cisco CX Advanced Specialization Certification. And with me today, I have Christian Hansen from Cisco, who runs the program here for the US, I believe, in particular. Christian, you want to say hello?
Hello, thanks for inviting me. I am actually global, so
There
not just
we
US. So there you
go.
go.
Okay, great. And then my name is Jamie Bertese. I'm the COO and CCO of Totango, who is the leading partner working with Cisco on the CX specialization, in particular the advanced specialization. But we're going to kind of get into all of that. So today, what we'll first do, I think, is just go through our agenda and the key takeaways. So what we're going to start with here is talk a little bit about what is this program? What is the CX specialization that Cisco is trying to drive for their partners? Christian's going to go a little bit over the lifecycle incentives and how to leverage their new lifecycle Ignite promotion. And then we're going to take it over on Tango and talk a little bit more about how you can fast track achieving the advanced CX specialization and be able to take advantage of all of these incentives. At the end, we will put the slides away and open it up to questions with our dedicated Cisco team, who we have also here with us today in our session. So with that, I will talk a little bit about Totango. And before I do that, I want to start by putting out a poll to the audience. So we have a poll. We thought what we would do is ask you guys to respond here on, what is it that you see as the key challenges in getting started with a customer success tool. Now, while you're answering that, we'll go ahead and I'll talk a little bit more about Totango. And then what we want to do is use these answers to help, really guide the discussion today and make it worth a good use of everybody's time. Okay. So a little bit more about Totango. So Totango has been in the customer success space for over 10 years. And at this point, we have over 3,000 customers globally optimizing their customer journey using Totango. The thing about Totango is that we work with companies from the very, very small, 1 to 10 employees, all the way up to the largest in the world, including SAP and NTT, NTT being, one of the most successful and largest Cisco partners, and SAP being the largest global implementation of customer success. So the thing that you can take away about Totango is it's a solution that can scale with you. You can start small and you can go as large as you want to go, as complex as you want to go. But I believe the reason people pick Totango is because it's easy to get started, and there's a way for you to just kind of dip your toe in the water, get going with things, and then add and grow over time. So what makes people get started with customer success more generally than specifically about the Cisco program? And what we see is that our customers are trying to drive really meaningful business results. That's what's motivating them to move forward, and these are the kinds of numbers that our customers are achieving on an annual basis. You can see SAP has driven more than a 2.5% improvement in their renewals. And obviously for a company of SAP's size, that's a staggering number. You can see NTT has driven more than 50% growth in their product adoption, which is obviously a key metric for customer success. It's all about, bringing the customer on board and then getting them to achieve value quickly and actually adopt and use the product. So when you come back around for the renewal later, you don't get just the renewal, you get the renewal and the expansion. And you can see companies like Trustpilot and Monster on here have driven very significant increases in their retention. So we'll get into all this a little bit more, but I think the thing you should kind of take away here is that the reason customer success is exploding, or the reason why customer success is growing so dramatically, is because it delivers business results that really hit the bottom line for these companies. Okay, so Christian, I will now turn it over to you to talk us through a little bit more about the CX specialization.
Okay, thank you. We can go ahead and move to the next slide. So I think that industry leaders have done a great job over the last decade advocating and explaining the big market shift. So I won't want to spend a lot of time on that, but leaders like Totango and TSIA and Salesforce and others have really driven this big market shift. I won't belabor the point, but to say that we here at Cisco have really amplified that with our CEO, Chuck Robbins, setting some very aggressive goals a few years ago on moving to a software model, a recurring revenue model. And just needless to say, we can't do that without our partners. We're very strong, have a very strong partner organization. And that's really the goal that we have here in the customer experience specialization. So the journey started over a couple of years ago, and Jamie, I tend to talk really fast, so feel free to cut in if you have a question and interrupt me, or
I will.
play some music to Oscar music to get me off stage, whatever it takes. This started as a pilot program, an invitation-only program, about 3 or 4 years ago, and it was really our first steps into building lifecycle and lifecycle first approach, and that was the lifecycle advisor. There are probably some on this call that were part of that pilot program, and that grew to a year and a half ago, where we expanded to the customer experience specialization and launched it. It's an open enrollment with all partners welcome, all sizes. We feel like these services are critical, in that there's an inherent value in the customer success motion beyond just the incentives that are built into our program. And to highlight the importance that we really feel along this journey, going from pilot to open enrollment, we recently announced at our latest partner summit that this specialization, either the specialized level or the advanced level, will be required for all gold partners by January 7th, 2022. So in just over a year, you'll see a major transition in our program numbers.
Wow. So therefore, I guess when I'm, looking at this with 2.5, or 2.5x growth, when your partners have a CS practice, or 3x in the renewal rates, you must see a lot of partners who are adopting the program. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yep, absolutely. So I mentioned about 4 or 5 years ago, we launched the pilot program. When we moved to the customer experience specialization and launched that, we migrated about 240 partners. So over the first 3 years of the program, about 240. In the next year, since launch, we've added over 100. So we're really accelerating that number, which makes sense, going from a pilot invitation only to an open enrollment, and now moving towards gold. We're closing in on 400 partners, and moving to gold, that will likely double in the next year. So over 5 years, we are where we are, and in 1 year, we expect that to double, or even more than double, because of the new gold requirement.
Right. So I guess what I would take away if I'm a partner then is that it's time to get started.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's time to get started. For those who haven't started, it's time to accelerate for those who have started but aren't there. And then, another big group of partners, I mentioned the 2 tiers. There's a big group of partners who are at the specialized level, and it's time for them to accelerate over to the advanced level. And so getting to the 2 levels, it's really about people, process, and tools. And the customer experience specialization is 2 CSMs and a renewal manager. We have an executive sponsor requirement. There's obviously no training or any exam or anything like that, but just to highlight the critical role of executive support and executive accountability to make this happen. And that's really one of the main, that's really the start of the journey, right? Executive support, getting stakeholder buy-in, and investing into this practice. At the specialized level, once again, it's very high touch. It's a high touch model. It's when we do the validation process is to submit an application questionnaire outlining the practice with some supporting documentation and what we call customer references, which are really customer use cases or customer case studies. that highlight your practice in motion with real customers, business outcomes, identifying problems, KPIs that are measured, outcomes that were met, adoption barriers, et cetera. So it's really an opportunity for partners to highlight the success of their practice.
Right.
Moving to advanced, if I was to just separate the two of these, yes, there's one additional customer success manager and a customer success practice leader. Once again, not there's no exam requirement for that. It's just a strategic role, accountability for a more advanced practice. So if I were to just boil these down, the difference between the two, it's really about scaling the practice. I mentioned the high touch model with the specialized, which is totally fine. Spreadsheets, really getting those top customers in motion. So moving to advanced, it's really about automation and scale. And that's really the point of what we're here today, using a customer success platform to push that. And I'll get a little bit more into the roles. And a point I want to make here is we call them customer success manager, renewals manager, customer success practice lead. It's really, but this is really about our partners' practice. If you call them customer success executive or something else, it really doesn't matter. It's about the motions, it's about the job role, it's about the functions. And it's really, when we're validating your practice, the best in class partners have their own practice. They're not just sort of telling us what they think Cisco wants to hear or copying what we use as a racetrack and touch points. All those things are perfectly acceptable and useful, but we find that it really helps partners prepare for the audit, knowing that this is really about their practice and how their business functions roll into this. And so for those partners on the call who are familiar with Cisco Gold or Cisco Master and the audit processes there, this is much different than that. It's more, it's less, there's more gray area. It's not so just yes or no. And so there's a lot of flexibility because there's so many ways to be successful at customer success. And that flexibility is reflected in our validation process.
You know,
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll just mention one thing. What I've seen with that flexibility, as you described in customer success, is, as I mentioned, we have over 3,000 customers, so I've got kind of a lot of experience with customer success. And I'll say that sometimes it's hard for people to understand how to start,
Yep.
or because customer success can sometimes be very vague, and people have heard this term kind of thrown around, but they're not exactly sure what it means. So I think when we talk more at the end, we'll talk a little bit more about ways that, there's guardrails and ways for you to kind of easily get going, and take advantage of those who've come before in the learnings already.
Absolutely. Yep. And just to tie off this slide, to get to the validation for the roles, the customer success manager is a Cisco career cert. Many of you know that those carry a lot of weight in that, our CCNA, CCNP, CCIE career certifications are very valuable, very common in the industry. And this reaches that level. It's a career certification. It's a proctored exam. With all of our roles, exams are required. Training is optional. And so we really just look at the exam, but there is an ILT available for customer success manager, and there is a self-paced e-learning available as well that really maps to the exam. For renewals manager, it's an $80 online exam. It's training on our Sales Connect platform, which is our learning management platform, a black belt learning map that maps to the renewal manager exam. So that's how you get started from a people perspective when qualifying. Now that's not building out the practice, but that's starting to prepare for the program. Once again, this is really why we're here. That step from specialized to advanced has proven in the year plus that we've been doing this to be a significant one. And if I were to tie it together for those of you who are familiar with our Lifecycle Advisor program and have been migrated over, which I expect are several of you on the call, the specialized level really is Lifecycle Advisor. It's the same people, process, and tools that were validated as you joined that pilot program. Um, and once again, the main difference moving to advanced is really about scale. And I will say, and we preach this, that we're really tool agnostic, and saying that might hurt here a little bit, but it's really about tool capabilities, and are the tool capabilities. And just to give you a little insight into what we've seen over the year that we've been going through the customer experience specialization advanced audits, is that overwhelmingly more than 80% of the partners who have achieved the advanced level and passed the audit are using a customer success platform, something off the shelf. It says here you can build your own. We've seen that twice. Very difficult, very, very advanced DevNet partners. And then we've seen a couple who have pieced together several tools with heavy customizations that work but aren't as elegant and require some more manual effort there. So I expect, and just to highlight the flexibility of the program, we expect the partners going through an audit today. We require a recertification audit every 2 years. And we expect that these practices, especially in the tools, are going to be way further along 2 years from now than they are today. So, and just one more highlight here, a shout out to Totango, is that I mentioned that over 80% are using a customer success platform, and Totango has the most partners who have come through the program using Totango than any other. So not just saying that because I'm sitting here on your webinar, it's just a fact.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so I think, as we'll get into that, one of the things that we do with the poll results now, and the poll results, show that 50% of the folks who responded are saying that they're ready to get started, Christian, but they just don't know how. Help me get started.
Yep.
How do I take these kind of first steps and so forth? So I think that that's great. That means obviously that we are getting to the folks who really are ready to go here. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, how you can get going in like a crawl, walk, run approach.
Absolutely.
Sure, if you want to start with run, we're good. But what I found, over the years is that it is that crawl, walk, run approach that really helps people be successful within their own organizations as they're getting going with customer success.
Yeah, I completely agree. And we have resources, the Cisco Success Hub. I don't think I put it on a slide in here, but you can always reach out to me directly. I think my email address will be part of the material sent out. And to your point, there's a lot out there. There's websites, there's books, and I think you've got a very compelling book yourself in your industry. That's a great way to get started. From a high level, that whether it's crawl, walk, or run, whatever I've already mentioned, is executive support, having that conversation, and we have resources around that specifically too in our Cisco Success Hub. So happy to send out more information when we get to that point. All right, so let's talk about why we invest. If we want to move to the incentive part, incentives are always good. And I truly, truly believe that the inherent value in building a customer success practice and providing customer success and lifecycle services is really the most valuable part of this. It's the opening up recurring revenue streams, increasing renewal rates, increasing expansion, looking across organizations for expansion across organizations and different products, et cetera. A lot of upsell and opportunities that are identified by using these customer touch points that are important in your customer success processes. And what we're seeing is our best-in-class partners. We do profitability studies every year. They're really leaning into customer success, into life cycle services, focusing on business outcomes. And so yes, it's going to be required for gold, and that's a stick. But I think the real golden carrot out there is the practice itself. Now we've created an incentive program called Lifecycle Incentives that was also part of Lifecycle Advisor, and it's just continued to exist in its own incentive that really helps partners offset the cost of this. Will it pay for your investment completely? Maybe not. Will it be a profit? Will it be a profit driver? Maybe at first, but how incentives are worked to get there.
Yeah.
Incentives are to drive behaviors that we want to see, and they're temporary in nature. So it's to really help get the value, to really emphasize the value of building, and then those inherent rewards like you put up with NTT is just enormous. And so increasing those renewal rates are really, really what we're after here. And we can talk a little bit more specifically. So we reward across the life cycle. I won't spend a lot of time here. And this specialization is specifically tied to the adopt and expand portion of the incentives. So onboard, implement, use, activate, that's part of the overall program, but eligibility for the customer experience specialization is really about providing adoption services, getting that stickiness, and rewarding for identifying and closing expand opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
Go to the next slide, and I'll talk a little bit more about adopt incentives specifically. These are really around customer success plans and then proving successful business outcomes. Reach out to me for links on this as well. You can find it even Googling Cisco lifecycle incentives, and to find more details about the specifics here. But just suffice it to say, we're rewarding for registering customer success plans and then achieving successful business outcomes and proof points on proof of performance on submitting those can be found on our websites.
Yeah. And one thing I'll mention is, and we'll go into this more detail here in a second, and then Christian, I have a question for you, is that things like submitting the customer success plan within 90 days of booking, some of the logistics of all of this are built into the success box that Totango offers. So we've worked already with partners to get all these things put together and in place. And now the next batch of partners that are coming along can take advantage of that. So there's, the infrastructure, let's say, is ready to go here.
Awesome.
On a lot of the administration. Okay.
That's
So
great.
Christian, the other question I had on this, from my experience talking to the partners, is that the incentives are pretty compelling, right? And so is there a cap? Is there like a maximum somebody can achieve with them?
So excellent question, and I should have addressed that and breezed right over it. So thank you for the question. That's another big difference in going from specialized to advanced is you can earn more. There is a cap at the specialized level, but moving to advanced, there is no cap on the adopt incentive. So you can see the other terms over here on the right, like you mentioned, that are built into Totango. These aren't just arbitrary dates that we're trying to, that we're setting up as barriers. These are built in because studies show getting a success plan early leads to success. So these timelines are really built in to help with the success. So moving from specialized to advanced is critical when it comes to earning more. And once again, that's automation and that's scale with the customer success platform. Expand, once again, it's right here, clear. Going from specialized to advanced, you earn more. So instead of 3% on your expand deals, you get 6%. So a good opportunity in both the adopt and the expand incentives to earn more as an advanced partner, and to once again accelerate the value. Like I said, the inherent value of having that practice is great, and this expedites getting to that value. All right, so that's it on incentives. So just a quick thing I want to highlight, and this is for partners in the Americas, is we recently announced, if you want to move to the next slide, to help get started, a Lifecycle Ignite Partner Summit promotion. A couple different options here for those who are saying, how do we get started? I mentioned before the vast need of growth we're going to have here, going basically doubling in the next year. It's sort of an all hands on deck situation, right? Where we don't have immense enablement teams that can work really closely. So we're partnering, partnering with Totango and other Cisco learning partners who provide these practice advisories. So this is a good place to get started. Option one is exactly intended for those partners who understand the why and want to get to the how. And so this is a crash course day into really organizing that. It's $5,000 up front, 100% reimbursed by Cisco, and upon completion of the engagement. There are details for proof of performance, but it's basically just proving that your customer success organization went through the engagement, and that is reimbursed. Two is more relevant to this conversation. Really the target of when we design this, and it's flexible, so there's some flexibility built into these as well. But the intention of number two is to really help partners who know that they're going in this direction, know that they need to migrate to the advanced level. And we do have a date there I overlooked mentioning is March 1st is that group of partners that are migrating from our pilot lifecycle advisor program are expected to complete that migration by March 1st. What that means for advanced partners is that you meet the role requirements and submit the application by March 1st, and then you have up to 60 days from that date to pass the audit. So knowing that date's coming up, knowing there are many partners in this situation that need to accelerate the platform, number two is really targeted. If you know that you're going to invest in a platform, reach out to Totango. And we will help with that engagement. It's $15,000. Which 50% is reimbursed to the partner at the completion. So some money from Cisco here to really help accelerate this. And proof of performance is 10 customer health scores. That's a natural output of a customer success platform. And you have until the end of our fiscal year, which is the end of July, to submit that proof of performance. So there's time to engage, and there's probably a lot of questions. I don't want to jump ahead to Q&A, but one of the common questions we get on the audit is some of these, yes, we're talking about tool acceleration, platform acceleration, et cetera, and you have the building blocks built into with Totango to really help accelerate that, and I think that's where we're headed next. So I'm going to stop myself there because I don't want to jump ahead to Q&A because it's probably being covered next.
Yes, we are going to talk about that. Okay, so we'll go into that in more detail. And I see that we have some questions too. The questions seem to be, the two that I can see right here are primarily about like, how is the Totango tool fed with the Cisco data? How is usage and stuff captured is another one. So we'll cover all that a little bit now, and then in the QA in more detail when Devin and Sumant will also be joining us, who are the Cisco team at Totango. Awesome. Okay. So basically what we realized was that there was an opportunity here for Totango to really bring structure to this for the partners, because what we found early on as we started to work with with our Cisco partner is that we were getting kind of asked the same questions over and over and over again by the partners. And then also we understand and now have worked through the audit, so we understand everything about what Cisco is really looking for. So we basically created a program very specifically for this opportunity. And I will say one more thing before we kind of jump into the details here. The way Totango works, so just at a very high level, is we have a customer success platform, and running on top of the platform are what we call success blocks. And each success block basically is built out for a particular stage of the journey and potentially a particular segment of customers. So you might have, 3 or 5 different segments of your customers that you want to interact with kind of differently, right? Maybe onboarding for your top 10 customers is very different from onboarding for your long tail, which you want to have fully automated. Maybe your top 10 customers, you want to have your onboarding program be really high touch, for example. So either way, what we have are these success blocks that are built out in a marketplace that you can just go and download that provide you all the structure and everything you need to get going. And then you can iterate against these success blocks in a really streamlined fashion and easy fashion. So basically for Cisco, what we've been able to do because of our architecture, because of the way that Totango works, is build out all the success blocks that are needed here. And we can start with a partner on a very basic level, like your first success block would be customer intelligence, and your second success block would probably be risk. Or maybe your first success block is customer intelligence, that gives you all the health scores. Your second might be onboarding. But either way, we can work through all that with you. But I just want you to know that we have kind of the guardrails, we have the structure, and we can help you get going really quickly. You could start very small or you can start very big. Either way is completely fine from our point of view. So when we look at this, we've broken down the Cisco program, the Advanced Customer Experience Specialization, into kind of 3 areas. Areas as we've been kind of talking about, right? One about people and organization, the second, the process, and the third in the tools. And so really from a people and organization point of view, I will tell you that we have an entire network of CSMs and customer success experts who are always looking for jobs and the right opportunity. So we will help you if you need to staff up. That's an area where we can tap into our network for you and help you hire people who come to you knowing Totango. So, you know, this is going to be an add to your company because they'll bring the skills that you need. So that's one thing to know. We've got the people, we've got the organization. Secondly, on the process, as I mentioned, our success blocks and our success plays, which are the kind of automation components, are already built out. So really, we will, of course, customize those to your specific business, but it's the customization is very straightforward. This is not going to be super difficult. And you're certainly not starting with like a clean slate where someone's going to sit down next to you and say, so what should we build for the next 9 months together? You know, this is not like that. This is the kind of thing where you can kind of get going, you can be up and running in a very short period of time. I would say partners that we work with from Cisco now, typically it's been 6 weeks or so, I would say, until they've been up and running with their first success block, maybe their second success block. So we can get you going quickly. And then lastly, you know, as I was mentioning from a tools point of view, we've really built all the automation into our platform and into our success blocks. And that will handle things like the integrations. So we've got this thing called the Customer Data Hub where we have all our integrations ready to go. And I'll let Sumant talk more about that in the Q&A at the end, because he runs that part of the company. So as I mentioned, really the customer success platform is what the success blocks run on top of. And what you're seeing here is basically a visualization showing you're going to bring all this data into the customer success platform, right? You can see the front end data, the back end data. And the value to most companies that we work with here is that oftentimes they have all this data, but it's not brought together anywhere where the employees are empowered with the data or automation is built using this data, right? Activities can be triggered using this data. So you can see which customers are at risk, or you can see which renewal is up, or that type of a thing. And so what we find for folks is that the first time that they start to bring this information together, and oftentimes people will start with 3 data sources. Typically it will be like maybe CRM data, maybe some usage data, maybe some customer support data, and then information basically about the customer itself that would be coming from the CRM data. And so what happens is they bring like a basic set of data together and they start to really be able to see in one place all the information about their customers and start to take action off of that, building automations like, let me know when my customer health score dips. And how is my customer health score going to dip for a particular customer? Well, let's say there's a bunch of support issues that have arisen in a short period of time, more than 5 support issues that have risen in the course of 30 days or whatever the triggering is that we're going to build together for that. And so basically what happens is people kind of usually start with something very basic. Then what happens is over time, they add more and more data sources. And as you add more and more data sources, of course, it even gets more and more compelling. And then you'll find that other parts of your organization will want to actually see this information as well. Oftentimes we end up with all customer facing people from an enterprise having access to the information in some way or another. Sometimes it's a very streamlined way, maybe just the mobile application. Sometimes it's the full robust tool for the CS team itself. So we'll talk in the Q&A more about the specifics of bringing in the Cisco data, because I know there's questions about that. So basically what we've done is we've gone ahead and mapped, if you look here in the green, what you can see is these are the components of the Cisco Advanced Certification Program. And, if you look on the right side of the column, you can see here which are specifically required. So what we did is we went and said, okay, customer onboarding, how are we going to map that into Tango and show that, to Cisco that this is in place for the Cisco partner, and that's in the onboarding success block. So really, when you start with us, you can see very easily, it looks super complicated here, but we'll help you. You can see that we can hit all of the guidelines. So what we've done is we have basically taken all that and put it into this approach, right? So we have these success blocks ready to go, customer intelligence all the way down to the incentives tracking. From what I've seen so far, the partners love the incentives tracking because you can see in one place all your incentives. And then, other things like the data integration component and other configurations that you can see here, things like executive console and reporting, right? Because your management team wants to know what's happening here, and they want to be able to see, from the investment that they're making, what are we getting from this? So this will help you with all of that. So I think what I wanted you to just kind of take away here is that with Totango, you can get started easily. You can get started in a kind of streamlined fashion. Maybe it's going to be like a 10 to 15K investment. You can get started all the way up to a couple $100,000 investment. It's really about, the level of investment you want to make and how much, where you kind of want to go with the advanced certification. I will say that we have Cisco partners who range that gamut for sure. We have, partners like NTT that we've been working with now for, I don't even know how many years, maybe 4 years or so, who, we've deployed globally, running their entire business on top of Totango. And then we have newer partners who came on just in this last year who are, going through the certification right now. And we're happy to work with you and help you with this, in whatever way is appropriate for your business. So please don't feel like, oh God, this is going to be this like nightmare program, super expensive, super hard. That shouldn't be your takeaway. Your takeaway should be, it can be crawl, walk, run from the Totango side in particular. So with that, what I will do, I think, is here we have the, hold on one second, I'm gonna go back to that before we go to the Q&A. So here is a URL you guys can go to get a free readiness assessment or to speak to one of our Cisco specialists here. Additionally, at the end, I also have included Devin's email address. And I believe Sumant's also sumant@totango.com, and Devin is devin@totango.com. So we'll put those up as well, and you guys can email us if you would like to chat further as well. I know I do see some questions on that point in particular, and we're happy to spend time with you. I will also, I guess, mention before you jump into the Q&A here that at Totango we have a community edition. So the community edition is free forever for like a small number of licenses, but then, and I think it's like 3 licenses, but the thing that's good about the community edition is, you can go and check that out yourself tonight, download it, sign up, and see what you think from that. So that's a way that you can just even get a sense for what the tool is and what the system is. On the other hand, we're happy to help you with that as well and demonstrate everything to you and so forth. So you just let us know how you'd like to work with us. Okay, so with that, I'm going to now open it up to questions, and I would say the first one that seems consistent on here from what I can see from the Q&A is all about the integration. So Sumant, can you talk to that a little bit? Talk about how do we integrate the data? How does the tool, the information come in? One, Caroline is asking, and she's saying, asking as Cisco's partners don't yet have access to the Cisco CX Cloud portal. So
yeah, so Totango has, is custom built data platform for integration. So we understand we need to bring all this data in from a CRM, from product usage. So it's been built even before the Cisco program with a very flexible data architecture, right? So that's one. Second, specific to the Cisco program, the partners will have to work with Cisco to get access to the data. So that, I think we've been working with Christian and his team to kind of get that piece made easier. But as you know, each product has its own API. You got the different portals for WebEx, WebEx Control Hub, Smart Account, etc. You need to work with Cisco to pull that information, right? Once we have that, we're working with the partner to actually integrate that with Totango. And the products where we've seen telemetry are typically WebEx and DNAC, right? Those are the two products where partners have brought in information, or two sets of architectures where we've seen some of that information. Security, we're starting to see in some customers, but this is an ongoing journey to get the telemetry piece right. So I would say don't wait to get the telemetry right. We have some partners who are loading it manually out of spreadsheets, et cetera. So that is more work to be done with Cisco and your Cisco partner manager. But I think the rest of the value from the platform and even the auditors whom we work with closely have said that the telemetry data needs to be there, but it can be loaded manually or automated at this stage. So it's something we can do. We just need the right data from you to do that. And some of our partners doing that. In fact, we had a partner go live yesterday with Totango, and they have some of that telemetry data in there, although not automated.
And this is actually one of the very largest partners. I think this company is out of Australia, if I'm thinking which one.
Yeah, and it's a good point. It's something we're working on very diligently and making strides in. But we've had initial conversations with the Cisco teams, with the Totango team and Cisco team, and starting with a more concerted effort when our engineers can get to it. We're heads down on our partner experience platform, which will lead to a lot of this. Just speaking at a high level, but really good point on the audit requirement. When I'm talking automation and scale, that's really the customer success platform. The telemetry will oftentimes have to be manual, and that's okay. So when I'm saying automation, that's the customer success manager view, not the back end that gets there.
And from your point of view, what do you think are some of the most common questions that we get asked in the conversations with the partners when we sit down?
Yeah, again, it's just the getting them started type of mentality and making them feel comfortable that a customer success tool isn't as complicated as they think it is.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest thing that I would push all the partners, and Christian and I talk about this often, is to reach out to us and just have that 30-minute conversation with us to talk about both the Cisco program and your customer success practice and building that out. Because I think there's a lot of information out there that you can go get around customer success. You can Google customer success and get overwhelmed with all of the information. I think this is just a good idea, and us showing our partnership with Cisco, reach out, have that initial conversation with Sumat and myself, because we'll have that conversation with you to make you feel comfortable that this is something you can do, and it's not going to be as complicated as you really think.
Right. And then I guess the other thing that's kind of come up for us, I think, is that the partners who are starting with Cisco, they are often leveraging the investment for other aspects of their business as well. Is that not correct?
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think that's one thing when Christian brought this to us early and we started discussing it, I think Cisco was very open to, hey, we're not the only manufacturer or large technology company out there that's looking to do this, but they're definitely on the forefront of it. And Jamie, as you know, we've talked to other of our customers, but looking at, HPE and SAP and Microsoft, all of these other partners are talking about how do they work with their partner communities. And so again, not just with Cisco data and information like we've been talking about before, but we're definitely developing tools working with those other partners so you can tap into the other partner programs or other pieces of those businesses to be able to manage that partnership and that program and those products that you're selling with other partners, not only Cisco.
Mm-hmm. Great. Okay. So I think that wraps it up. I think that the other questions have been answered in the chat. So I think we're good there. Christian, any last things that you'd like to mention?
Yeah, just as part of the follow-up, I'll send some resources on some Cisco things to get started. And just one more, you can always reach out to your Cisco PAM for more information as well. And Devin just brought up a great point. Our most successful partners are multi-vendor. So when you're going through the advanced specialization audit, it truly is about your practice. If there's elements of the practice that need to be demonstrated through other vendors, that's great. Our most profitable partners are obviously going to be able to scale this better with multiple vendors, it's customer success across the organization. So that's it.
Great. So again, we want to thank you for your time today and hope that, the key takeaway here is that Cisco and Totango are working in partnership. It doesn't matter if you want to start very small or very large. We're happy to work with you. We will help you. We'll help you get the advanced certification so that you can achieve the incentives and goals and really move your business forward. So just reach out, let us know. Here's Devin's email address. And as I mentioned, Sumant is Sumant at Totango as well too. And we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.